I now invite Mrs. Shanti Mohan, Vice Principal, Lakshmi School, to read a passage from the book.
A very pleasant morning to all of you assembled here. I'm doubly proud to be a part of this gathering. Firstly, because I was one of the privileged to read the books first. And secondly, because I was one of the teachers who taught Pavitra at school. So I'm really basking in Pavitra's glory. I shall just mention a word or two about Pavitra before I read a couple of passages from the book. Pavitra joined us sometime in the 6th grade. She had come straight from America. There were two things that Mrs. Sita Krishnamurthy and I, that is the other English teacher, and I often discussed and shared about Pavitra. One was her flair for English. The expression, vocabulary just amazed us. And secondly was the modesty. We had not seen a better behaved child. We were told that American children were brats and it was difficult to manage them. But here was a model student who also listened to each and every word of the teacher with modesty, though I'm sure she would have taught me more because it was in my salad days that Pavitra was my student. Thank you, Pavitra, for being there and inspiring the teachers. Today, I would just like to share a couple of passages. I was told it's one passage, but I will please like to read a couple of passages because I'm sure it'll interest you and make you read the book. Pavitra's book, Pavitra and Suchitra's book, is not just inspiring, it is interesting as well. The style is crisp and it becomes poetic at times. So it will definitely interest all of you. There's one of those inspiring or very descriptive passages about Dr. V on page 57. A bright green rubber band has been snapped, twisted, and tied around the toe hold. He alternates this pair of footwear with a nearly identical one that sports a red rubber band. Dr. V is careful not to wear out either pair too soon, hence the rubber band ID tags. A trivial detail loaded with his distinct personality, his utter lack of vanity, his frugality, his passion for order and discipline in the smallest details. He has built those qualities into his family and into Arvind. In another page, that is page 129, it is a very motivating passage telling us how everybody can aspire for excellence. The more one examines Dr. V's life, the clearer it becomes that what set him above others was not broad strokes of genius or recurrent flashes of brilliance. His accomplishments were made up of a steady succession of disciplined moments accumulated over a lifetime, moments inhabited by empathy, a passion for excellence, and the stamina for hard, humble work. I have been doing yoga since 1936, from the age of 18 years, consciously or unconsciously, he once wrote in his journal. He uses the word yoga to define any movement towards perfection. In another page where they talk about the family, because Arvind is all about family ties and a common goal. He says, the everyday lives of this family are intertwined on multiple levels. And Dr. V, the white-haired bachelor of the clan, deeply cherishes this closeness. He is always the first to show up at the doorstep whenever someone in the family has fallen ill and loves buying small treats for the grandchildren. Nothing compares to a joint family, he once wrote in his journals. I would not have survived had I lived alone. This sentiment is echoed by Dr. Nachiyar on page 68, where she says, the dream was Dr. V's, but the dream became a reality only because of the family and others. There are very many interesting pen portraits of the other characters, other doctors, other interesting people whom you will be seeing around you, whom you see every day. And he speaks in terse, rapid sentences as though impatient with both the people and the words he employs. But when a family friend cannot afford to send a child to school or an acquaintance in hard times is in search for a job, when the village needs a new marriage hall, or the budget for a project is finally tight enough to stand up to his scrutiny, GS can be counted for support. Another pen portrait that I enjoyed reading was on page 94 about Dr. Nachiyar, who is in one of those pages called as the one-woman quality control department. It really fits a person. If you know her, you will really accept that. As one of Arvind's senior nurses put it, people get scared when they see her because she looks at all the details. You suddenly notice the little things that are wrong as soon as she comes into the room. She shouts a lot, but she also teaches us a lot about how to work and how to do the best for our patients. Nachiyar is a woman with phenomenal organizational consciousness and a vivid personal style. She is equal parts tyrannical, generous, and concerned. In general, the book abounds with images, stories, and there's a lot of descriptions which are very interesting to a layman. There's one description, a very realistic description. Outside Arvind, Madurai, an orange bus rumbles down the street, lopsided with 4 young men hanging on for dear life in the open doorway. Behind it comes a man on a bicycle with egg crates stacked higher than his head, wobbling precariously. This is a widespread talent in India for carrying more than what is considered sensible and doing on so with unruffled ease. You see it at Arvind too. Continuing with a sense of humor, while talking about Dr. Nachiyar's passion for farming, on page 261, she says, she's very excited about the crop this year. I know you must have heard of the Oro farm. And Dr. Nachiyar is very passionate about the plants there. We will have a harvest of 200 sacks of rice this week. It's a record yield and all, she says, and all organic, she says. I continue. Yesterday, Arvind's leadership learned that the organization had won the prestigious Hilton Humanitarian Prize for 2010. At $1.5 million in award money, it is the largest cash prize for social work in the world. Nachiyar is certainly pleased with the high honor, but in the week ahead, she will tell far more people about Oro Farm's bumper rice crop, it says. There are many such interesting episodes, pen portraits, very poetic, but I would just like to conclude with Dr. R's inclination to spirituality, which is there all through. This talks about what Pavitra shared with us a few minutes ago. It was an early morning in the summer of 2004. As had been our custom for many years, I was reading aloud from Sri Aurobindo's Savitri to Dr. V, or rather Dr. Tata, as we in the 3rd generation always called him. Tata is Tamil for grandfather. The day's passage was a conversation between Yama, the god of death, and the princess Savitri. The long flowing lines were dense with imagery, and I unconsciously began to read a little faster, not waiting for my mind to catch up to the meaning of the words. Wait, Pavitra, said Dr. V, who reminded me on more than one occasion that Savitri was meant to be read as if there were a laddu in your mouth. He bent the head on the page before him and repeated with gentle deliberation a line that I had rushed through. Wilt thou claim immortality, O heart? And then, in a moment I will never forget, he looked up and said with his signature chuckle, yes, Dr. B, you are very much alive. Thank you.